Another week and another episode of Chise's life being in danger, then getting saved. I want to be honest here, I'm starting to see a big pattern going on, and it's starting to make me grow a little bit numb to when Chise is in danger. I'm not gonna lie here. I mean, I still love The Ancient Magus' Bride. It's a good series. I like the romance, I like the setup with Chise's character, Ellis, the Fae. I like everything about the series. However, there is something that just is starting to bug me a little bit, which is the constant pattern of Chise always being in danger, and then everything turns out okay. Now, granted, this episode handled that problem a lot better than the previous episodes, because, like I said in my last review, when Chise was turned into a fox, the next episode came around, and everything was fixed in literally a minute and a half to 2 minutes. I was like, what? Like, giving us a cliffhanger like that and then fixing it in like the first couple of minutes, it just felt very weird and cheap, and it made for a very bad cliffhanger for the previous episode. And so I'm very happy that they didn't have that problem with this week's episode. It took around the middle point of the episode for Chise to be completely fine, everything works out. But let's talk about that scene with the doctor, what the doctor did to Chise. So the doctor, that is revealed to be like a fairy, and this doctor, which is a changeling or whatever, was living in the human world for a very long time. For instance, at birth, she was swapped with a human. And the human and her were swapped to where the human went to the fairy world while she went to the human world. So she was technically adopted in a way. She had human parents while the human had fairy parents. And we get to see kind of what would happen if a human was to stay in the fairy world for too long, which I'll get into that in a moment. But basically, though, we are introduced to this character that is a fairy, but raised in the human world, and she learned human ways, human medicine, human understanding. She got to learn all of this type of stuff. And she interacts with Chise, and it is revealed that the only way to really help out Chise is by putting her near-death experience. She needs to have the will to live. So she had to force her to be near a near-death experience for her to be able to heal all the wounds she received at the end of last week's episode. And I'm just like, okay, so that scene felt very over-dramatic to me. I hope I'm not the only one that thinks that, but while watching the episode and just pausing it, rewatching again, and just thinking about it, I'm like, that just was very over-dramatic. It shouldn't have been that dramatic, especially for what it was. And I mean, once everything was said and done, basically they were just laughing it off, just, saying I needed to do that just for you could be able to heal. And so, just like the way that was done, I understand. Just at the same time, I just don't know. The way the emphasis on it, the way it was just like, the way the drama of it was done, I was like, nah, it doesn't, I don't like that. I don't know, just something about it I wasn't really too keen on. But I mean, one thing we do need to take note of is Chise, people need to keep Chise away from water, okay? Every time this girl is near water, a lake, pond, whatever, she's always submerging in it. I mean, we have seen this like 3-4 times now. She's always being thrown into water. For real now, please. Like, someone needs to make sure she stays away. She needs to stay away from water completely. Even little puddles, she needs to stay away from. Because, I mean, when you look at the water depth in this episode, what she was apparently drowning in, the water depth was like that? It didn't even look that big at all. And I'm like, how was Chise, like, completely submerged like she was, like, in a lake or something when, she was drowning? I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. But I mean, besides that obvious problem with the depth of the water, though, I'm just like, people need to keep Chise away from water, okay? It's obviously a problem. It's obviously something that she just doesn't do well around. She just needs to be watched. In a discussion. So anyways, let's talk about what happens to the human body if they stay in the fairy world. Or in this case, let's just talk about the fairy world in general, okay? What makes it different from the regular human world? So, it is revealed that if a human stays in the fairy world for too long, they will cease to be human. So, for instance, Chise, if she was to stay in the fairy world, we don't know exactly how long. We don't really have like any time base of how long it would take. We just do know that the human that was in the fairy world was apparently in there for over a half a century. So it took a half a century for, at the very least, for him to be like this. Now, we don't know exactly if it happened in the first 5 years to 10 years. We don't know exactly how long it took for his body to start to change. However, it is revealed that basically if a human goes there and stays there, they will change. And I'm going to assume it's unreversible. You cannot reverse, what happened to you. So, I wonder what Chise would turn into. I mean, if I had to take an educated guess, I'm going to assume she's going to turn into, either a fox, because of the previous episode, or she's going to turn into a phoenix, which we saw her fly at the end of the first core of the Ancient Magus' Bride. One of those two things I think Chise would turn into. Just something like that, I feel like that's something she would turn into. I could be wrong there, but I feel like something like that could be it. Now, let's discuss another thing, too. What kind of depends on what they turn into? That's what I'm kind of curious about. I mean, maybe there's a set reason why maybe the human boy turned into, a centaur. I mean, for all we know, maybe the type of people you hang around or your type of personality or whatever might determine who or whatever you turn into. That could be a possibility. But like I said, it wasn't really explained. It was just letting us know that if Chise stayed for too long, she will cease to be what she is. Which, in a way, would save her life. Because, as we know, she is on a time limit. I mean, a much shorter time limit than a average human, because she is, a slave beggar, or however you pronounce the name. She is, one of them, and basically, if she overuses magic or whatever, there's going to come a time to where she's just going to croak, and so she needs to figure out a way to be able to survive this, and it seems like these talismans and these seals and stuff she has on her is not really helping her out that much. I mean, it slows down the process, but not that much, because of, what happened this episode and the previous episode. So, I'm questioning, is the way for Chise to possibly be okay and eventually continue on living is to move to the fairy world. I'm very curious about that. I wonder if that's the direction the writer is going to take the story for Chise to be able to survive. Anyways, let's talk about the time and how the fairy world actually goes with time. So, apparently, there is a difference in time between the fairy world and the human world. For instance, you know how we have a regular plane of existence with our time? A minute is a minute to us, an hour is an hour. You get my point. Well, in the fairy world, we don't exactly have a time. It wasn't given either. But apparently, in the fairy world, time progresses much faster. What may feel like a couple of days in the fairy world could relatively be maybe a couple of months or maybe even years in the human world. So, there could possibly be big gaps here, which is very interesting when you think about it, because the boy, the human boy and all that turned into a centaur, it was stated that the fairy that was living in the human world, it was like half a century. So I wonder exactly how long it's been for the boy to be like he is, and how much, he has, changed. I wonder if it's been maybe a couple of years or so. Very curious about that, but I mean, it's strange, though. So time does progress a lot differently. So in a lot of cases, Oberon and all that popped up at the end of last week's episode to come and save Chise, it could have been maybe a couple of days since he last saw her, because, how time is flowing very differently. I find that very cool. I like that. Hopefully one of these days it kind of gets dived into and explained. But for now, though, I do like the fantasy world of the Ancient Magus' Bride. So, moving on to the second half of the episode, which focuses on a character that is critically underrated and needs to have more, screen time, Silky. Silky is a very interesting character. She's a character that hasn't had much time to shine, and she is a character that has no voice. From what we've seen of her, she lacks a voice, and she hasn't spoken once, but she obviously has kind of an interesting personality. We know she likes it when people eat her food. She doesn't like when people don't eat her food. She takes care of the house. She's more of like a house spirit. Like a spirit that just watches over the house and all that. Like, I forget the name of those creatures, but I do know that is, a certain spirit. That is a certain, mythological creature that takes care of a house and watches over it. Like I said, I forgot the name of it. If any of you remember the name of that mythological being, please, let me know in the comments below. But, basically, Silky is the embodiment of, like, a house spirit. And we get a little bit more backstory to her and find out that she's actually a banshee. And I was thinking to myself, like, whoa. Like, okay, I know what a banshee is. Like, look, I play World of Warcraft, Sylvanas for life, okay? I mean, if you play World of Warcraft, you know what I'm talking about. Sylvanas, I mean, the Banshee Queen, okay? But, I mean, I know what a Banshee is, and I know what they can do. Like, I don't know everything about a Banshee, okay? I just want to clarify that, but I know enough. And I know that a Banshee could technically, in some ways, in some cases, be the embodiment of death because of their wails. Their cries, they could kill a person, or their wails could be a bad omen for someone's death coming. There's different interpretations of a banshee, and finding out that Silky is a banshee, I'm like, this makes sense why she has never spoke before, because maybe the reason why she never wanted to speak is because if she was obviously it'd be like a banshee wail, a cry, which could be symbolized as a dark omen, either to kill someone or something as, like, you will die very soon. That's the way you can interpret it. So that could explain why Silky has never spoken at all. It's because she's a banshee and she realizes that her voice could cause great harm to the individuals that she actually does care about. But when you look at the backstory of her being a banshee, we don't know necessarily what caused her to be one. We just do know that she had a family, she had a place she cared about, and she lost everything. She lost her home. And it seems like she was a banshee that didn't really want to be a banshee. Like, she didn't want to hurt anyone. And so, the way she became what she is now, it feels like maybe she might have changed. Like, I have heard in some, myths and stuff, some spirits can shift and change in other things, and maybe this is a case of that. Like, I don't know exactly, but maybe this is a case of maybe a banshee turning into, like, something else, like some form of house spirit. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like Silky might have changed completely, and she is no longer a banshee because she didn't want to be that. She finally changed her perspective, and she wanted to have a different role. So, I found that very cool. I don't know if that is the direction it went, but Silky's a really fascinating character, and it does explain a lot about her. I do hope we get more in the future, because even though we got some characterization to her, it isn't a whole lot to really, like, say she's the best character in the series or anything, but I would like to have more. I would really like more of her. I don't know if we will possibly get that for this season, but I did like what I saw from this episode, and we need more Silky. She's a good character. She is a good character. I'd like more. So, yeah, I want to end this review here, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like, and if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button down below, and if for some reason you're still not getting notified even though you have clicked the bell icon, unclick it and click it again. That should probably correct the problem, but if for some reason it doesn't, let me know in the comments below. And so with that being said, I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or not wherever you live. No matter where you live, no matter what time it is, no matter when you watch this video, I wish you all many great days and nights. Love you guys. Stay warm, stay safe. Chibi out.